Hello my loves and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Nina and in today's video we're tuning the dial straight back to the 1960s. As I got myself more into a vintage lifestyle, I started craving vintage related content. I needed any form of art that would transport me to a different decade to get a bigger sense of what that was, as we all do of course. My favorite decade, as I'm sure you know by now, is the 1960s, and believe it or not, even though it was such a vibrant and eventful era, there aren't many modern shows that try to depict it. So whenever I find a TV show that is set in the 60s that is not only well written but also beautifully staged, I'm instantly connected. I'm not even picky about historically accurate costumes or sets, even though I will definitely watch a video on YouTube later to see how accurate those are, but I'm fine with anything that is well thought out and visually pleasing. That is why today I want to talk about 4 of my favorite TV shows set in the 1960s. The first show I'm going to talk about became one of my favorites really early on, and I'm glad to say it was immaculate throughout. I don't remember even one episode where I wasn't immersed in the story or the characters, and that show is Mad Men. Mad Men is essentially about the world of advertising during the 1960s. Actually, the term Mad Men, as we see on the very first frame that pops up on the screen, refers to a term coined in the late 1950s to describe the advertising executives of Madison Avenue. But advertisement is just the base of the premise. The series also explores the shifts in American culture from 1960 to 1969, what it means to build an identity and the idea of reinvention in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, the quiet rise of women in office environments long dominated by men, the complicated inner worlds of 1960s housewives, the contrast between public image and private reality, the culture of smoking, drinking, and coping mechanisms of the era, loneliness, isolation, and the constant search for validation, the unseen pressures of money, status, and social expectations, age gap relationships and the power dynamics behind them, the clash between tradition and progress throughout the decade. I mean, I could go on for hours and hours. There are so many details in the show that are so perfectly thought out. Now, explaining the premise without spoiling anything is actually quite hard because there's a lot of mystery surrounding the characters. The show shifts its focus from episode to episode, revealing a little piece of someone new each time, especially throughout the first season. So, to avoid spoiling anything, I'll only share my reasons to recommend it. It's a drama, but you'll laugh more often than you expect. It's rarely a big ha-ha laugh, it's more like a quiet, knowing laugh, but I think that's the perfect balance. You see at least 5 different generations portrayed throughout the series. That means you can identify with the problems of whoever represents your generation, and you can watch the series again in 10 years and relate to a completely different character. So the show grows with you. The women in the series are extraordinary. They are all completely different, not only in their stories, but also in their clothes and personalities. You have the woman climbing the corporate ladder, the girl in her first job, the one becoming a workaholic. You have the desperately lonely housewife and the one who lives for being a housewife. You have the bohemian, free-spirited woman and the wealthy, well-established one. There's a lot of contrast, but that's one of my favorite things about the series. The female characters are beautifully written and you get a wide portrait of what life as a woman in the 60s could look like. Of course, the costumes are absolutely stunning, including historically accurate shapewear like girdles and long-line bras, along with slips and stockings. I've also read that most of the costumes were rented or thrifted by the super talented costume designer Catherine Jane Bryant, so you're getting a truthful look into 60s clothes, which just adds to the hard work and also to how visually pleasing it is to watch. Same thing happens with the interior design, which is just as impressive, and most of it happens in the office, which could seem boring. But there's always a detail that reveals something from the character. Maybe it's wallpaper, maybe it's an art piece, maybe it's the furniture, or even the type of culture they require when people step into their space. Everything you see in terms of set design reveals something about the characters. The music in Mad Men is glorious and it's largely historically accurate as well. Every episode feels like a season finale, and it has a wonderful song at the end that reflects both the era and the emotional arc of the episode in a superb way. And of course, the writing. I'm a huge fan of good writing, and this show has it. As I said before, there aren't many shows that focus on the 60s, but this one manages to showcase everything. The historical events and the characters' reactions to them, the cultural shifts and the resistance to those shifts, the rise of consumer culture, everything blends so naturally that you're experiencing the decade rather than just watching it. I just have good things to say about Mad Men, so if you're looking for something to watch, this is by far the first thing I would recommend. The second show we're going to talk about was created by my favorite writer, Amy Sherman Palladino, and it's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She's incredibly talented and deeply funny. So The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel begins in the late 1950s in New York and follows Midge Maisel, a housewife living what seems like a normal, successful life. In the pilot, we see Midge supporting her husband Joel in his ambition to become a comedian. She goes to the shows with him, takes notes on the audience, and organizes their life around his dream, until she realizes he's been copying his material from famous comedians. After a bad night on stage, he confesses he's been having an affair with his secretary and tells Midge he's leaving her. Then Midge, heartbroken and drunk, wanders back to the club where Joel had just performed. She stumbles onto the stage and, without meaning to, delivers a raw emotional set about her life falling apart, and the audience enjoys it. Susie, the woman who works at the club, immediately sees her natural talent and proposes to become her manager, marking the beginning of an unexpected journey into stand-up comedy. Now, there's so much to say about this series. Picture this: a woman working. Scandalous. Now make her a comedian, a funny woman. Men hear that and short circuit. A woman telling jokes? What's next? Reading books? Having opinions? The whole dynamic of having a woman working as a comedian, following a man's career, talking about her life after her divorce and about the expectations put onto women, that's of course a highlight in the series. And it's also the type of story we don't often hear about. In the series, it's particularly genius because she decides her stage name is going to be Mrs. Maisel. Now, she could have chosen a different name after her divorce, but by using her married name, she isn't hiding behind a fake persona. She embraces how she can talk from the experience of being a dumped wife. Having a microphone, talking about your life, having people listen to you, being invested in your stories and your advice, especially women. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll feel like you want to conquer the world as well. It's definitely enjoyable. Now, just to add to why we're here, other reasons to recommend you watch this. The show leans into a theatrical tone featuring heightened performances with unusual characters, which makes it funny on a different level. That's a hallmark of Amy Sherman Palladino's style. If you've seen any of her other shows, you'll know how funny and witty her characters are. You'll also see a lot about friendship, especially between Midge and Susie, building each other's confidence, being there for each other.
Tits up.
And then also the variety of friendships that are portrayed in the series in general. Sometimes competitive, sometimes tender, sometimes contrasting, sometimes odd, but friendships nonetheless. Mrs. Maisel, as you can imagine, is also visually striking. Perfect, colorful dresses with matching gloves, purses, and shoes. A theatrical version of 60s clothes, which mixes well into the story as a little extra to match the heightened performances and the unusual situations the characters go through. Same as the costumes, the sets are beautifully designed, and we get to see different types of houses, restaurants, the Gaslight Cafe, the university, even Paris at some point, so there are lots of stunning sights to see. The music selection is also excellent. It's not necessarily from the 60s, but it comes from impeccable taste, and they make a great selection for each episode. I wish I could say more, but it's hard to keep this short. Maybe if you watch it, we can talk about your perspective because I'm sure you'll enjoy it as much as I did. Moving on to the next show, and this one is pure 60s eye candy. Let's talk about Pan Am. I started watching this when it first aired on TV because the promotion behind it was so attractive. The uniforms, the luxurious life traveling around the world, the 60s. What's not to like about that? Pan Am is set in the early 1960s and it follows a group of Pan Am's flight attendants and pilots at a time when flying was at the height of glamour. The show mainly presents a postcard version of the decade, but it also delves into the lives behind the perfect image these flight attendants portray. You see their ambitions, their secrets, their complicated romances, and even a little Cold War intrigue with some flight attendants who have secret roles in the world of international espionage. It's part workplace drama, part adventure, part fashion fantasy, and it captures that moment of the decade when the world suddenly felt bigger, faster, and more exciting. This series is pretty simple in terms of plot, like you can definitely expect some cliches, but I don't dislike that. It's meant to be entertaining, and it is. Now, although the plot can sometimes feel predictable, the dialogue is extremely well constructed. It gives the characters and the story some dimension, which makes you feel like the plot can go on for a long time, which is of course what we hope for in a series. Sadly, that's not the case with Pan Am. It was cancelled after the first season, so we only got a little peek into that world, which is a shame. Apparently, after a significant decline in ratings in comparison to the pilot episode, the company decided to change the writing team and to make the series a little more soapy. Even while the last episodes can feel a little melodramatic, you can laugh and cry while you enjoy the amazing production design. For example, the beautiful costumes, especially the flight attendant uniforms, which were meticulously crafted using period-accurate undergarments and using historical photos and documents as reference. The sets are gorgeous as well. Airports, planes, and of course different countries that they visit on each episode. The soundtrack is mostly 60s with a good mix of original songs and beautifully produced modern covers, which is worth listening to on its own if you ask me. If you like planes, if you've ever dreamed about becoming a flight attendant, or if you're passionate about traveling, you'll find entertainment here for sure. The last show we're going to talk about today is actually a mini-series based on a Stephen King's novel, and it's 11/22/63. Odd title, or is it? This series follows a man who is shown a portal to the past and is tasked with preventing the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It blends history, mystery, suspense, and time traveling in an extremely captivating script. So this is exactly one thing I would love to experience. What if you could just cross a portal and go back to a different decade and see everything with your own eyes? We can only wish someday it will become a reality, but in the meantime, here's a series you can watch. Before I watched this, I didn't know much about Kennedy's assassination other than the universally known factors. At first, I thought it was going to be a little complicated of a story, especially for someone who is not American, but I'm glad to say it turned out to be extremely entertaining and quite easy to follow. Now, other than history, why do I recommend this series? First, as spectators, we cross the portal with the lead character, and suddenly we're standing on the same ground. We all come from the future, so we know things those people don't know. We are instantly part of the story, and that's what makes it funny, amusing, scary, and so on. The time traveling aspect, even though it has some paradoxes and some plot lines that resolve a little too quickly, is very well thought out and very well written. After a while of being in the past, you start understanding how everything works, so you sort of learn everything with the character. The production design is absolutely stunning. The old cars, the sets, the locations, the costumes, everything is super accurate and meticulously researched to capture the true events that happened on November 22, 1963. The crew actually filmed in Dealey Plaza for the assassination scene, where they must have dressed at least 250 extras and rented at least 50 old cars. It's great to see dedication to that extent. There are also a lot of action scenes, suspense, a lot of tension, and a little bit of psychological horror, but it's always beautifully done. After watching an episode of this series, I would always carry this physical sensation in my body of feeling that something was going to happen. Like if I went into the streets, I was like, there's going to be an action scene at some point. But that's just because as you go into the series as the outsider, you sort of carry that physical tension that the show portrays in such a good way. This is the only show from the list that we shared today that mixes the modern world with the 60s, and that is just something that amuses me, because that's the only one thing that I could expect ever, to just have a traveling machine or a portal or something and go back in time and experience it. So I really liked this series in particular. I laughed a lot and cried like a baby only in the last 10 minutes of the show, so that for me is really good and definitely worth watching. There are some other shows set in the 60s that cover completely different topics to the ones that we discussed today, so hopefully in the future we can make another video talking about more TV shows. If you've watched any of this, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And with that being said, that was everything for today. Thank you so much for watching and for being here, and see you on the next one. Bye!
But they sure got some cuties incorrect.